Today's class is called Let's Get Eccentric. We're going to be working on eccentric muscle contraction, which is when a muscle is lengthening under load as opposed to contracting or shortening under load. So we can do this lots of different ways, but one of the ways we'll be doing this is working with tempo. So sometimes we'll be doing a slow movement on the way down, a little bit quicker on the way up, so that we can really focus on that lengthening of the muscle. Whenever you're ready, we're going to get started in a supported bridge pose. So we'll start on our backs with the block or two blocks underneath the sacrum to give yourself more space. You can have hands on your front ribs or even hands on the pelvic points. And we'll start with some hip flexion. So pick up your right foot, and then we're going to slowly lower it down, maybe for 2 or 3 counts. So that's eccentric strength. And then pick up the left foot, hip flexion. Slowly for 2 or 3 counts, lower it down. So as we pick it up, we're concentrically working the hip flexors, and as we slowly lower the foot back down, we're eccentrically lengthening the hip flexors. So really pay attention to the pelvis. Don't let it tip forward or back. Don't let the ribs lift and lower. So we're trying to hold everything still as we just focus on this lengthening, the slow strength of the hip flexors. Couple more, really holding the pelvis steady. So we're also working the glutes. We're working some of those deep core muscles. Now let's plant both feet down, slide the block out and just lower down. Now the block comes between knees or thighs. Any width, any placement. Recheck your triple F. So that's the back of the skull, shoulder blades, and sacrum. We're going to push into the feet, lift up into a low bridge. Now our eccentric strength is going to come from slowly lowering down, maybe for 2 or 3 seconds until the glutes land. Then we lift up again. That's concentric strength. As we lower really slowly, that's eccentric strength of the hips or the glutes and the hamstrings. So we go quick on the way up, slow lower on the way down. Couple more times so you can work at your own pace. Just try to slow down your lower or your descent and go a little quicker on the way up. So as we go quick on the way up, we're getting that concentric strength, eccentric strength as we slowly lower. One more time, lift up and hold our low bridge. Feel your 2 pelvic points tighten in. Let's do left palm up and we'll pull back into a wrist stretch. Breathing into the ribs, side and back. Holding that engagement around the block. Switch hands, stretch out that right wrist into wrist extension. Breathe into the ribs. Hands will come down. Take another inhale. On your exhale, let's eccentrically lower with control. Really slow lower all the way until we land the sacrum. We're going to take our block out for core work today. Hands behind the head, elbows up or elbows in. Big breath in. When you're ready, exhale, lean your head back into your hands. Lift off the shoulder blades. So we're trying not to use the neck muscles. Feel these 2 pelvic points tighten in. Inhale and lower. Exhale, when you're ready, lean the head back, lift up. Feel your pelvic points tighten in. Inhale to lower. Let's add on exhale, lift without pulling on the head or neck. Now really hold that sacrum down. Let's extend the left leg. Now we'll slowly lower any amount toward the ground, getting that eccentric strength or length for the hip flexors. Bring it back up. Foot comes down. Inhale, lower. Exhale, head is heavy as we lift off the shoulder blades. Pelvic points draw in. Extend the right leg. Now slowly lower any amount. It does not have to go all the way to the ground. Lift it back up. Foot comes down. Inhale, lower. Exhale when you're ready. Lift up without pulling on the head. Zipper the pubic bone to the belly. Left leg extends. Let's slowly lower down. Lift it back up. Foot comes down. Inhale and lower. Last time, exhale, lift. Pelvic points draw in. Extend the right leg. We're gonna slowly lower any amount eccentrically, working the hip flexors. Lift it back up. Right foot comes down. Inhale and lower. Let's hug the knees in. Take a little rock side to side or up and down. And we'll come to quadruped. When you get to quadruped, we're gonna place a block at any height or setting right underneath the sternum, which is right where your chest is. Regular quadruped, shoulders over the wrist, hips over the knees. We'll extend the left leg back into a three-legged quadruped and then float that left leg up into some hip extension. Make sure we didn't drop the front body down, so hold that engagement. We're gonna slowly lower our sternum toward the block as we bend the elbows back. So it's a really slow push-up. Doesn't matter how far you go, we're slowing down and then push up a little bit quicker. So we go slow on the way down, working that eccentric strength of the arms, and then push up a little quicker. Slow lower down, keeping the collarbones and the chest broad. Push up a little quicker. One more time, slow lower, eccentric strength. Push back up. Good, left knee slides in. Let's recheck our triple S. Broom behind our back, and then we slide right toes back. Float the right leg up without dropping the belly or the ribs. So hold your engagement. Chest stays open like we're trying to lower the sternum to the block. And then push up a little quicker. Slow on the way down, keeping the collarbones broad. Lift back up quicker. So as we lower down slowly, we're practicing not diving the shoulders forwards. We're really keeping that nice engagement of the shoulders and shoulder blades. One more, slow lower. And then push back up. Good, right knee comes in. You can move the block aside for now. Let's just take a couple cat-cows. Mobilizing the spine. Find that neutral position for your quadruped. We'll tuck the toes under. Take a big breath in. As you exhale, we'll hover the knees without rounding the back. Now feel your thigh bones, right where your thighs or your legs meet the pelvis. Lift straight up, 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 like we're hiking the pelvis up, trying to keep the belly toward the thighs. Knees are gonna stay nice and bent. Heels are probably really lifted. And then once you come into that down dog, if you wanna pedal the feet out, do whatever feels good for a breath or so. Spread the fingers wide and make sure you're pressing into the whole hand, not just the wrist. Keep the belly toward the thighs as we walk the hands back toward the feet into happy squat. Now bend the knees as much as you need to get that flexion of the hips, maintaining that ankle flexion. So big toe, pinky toe, and heel are down. And we're gonna rise up like we have a broom behind us. To walk forward today, we're gonna do a staggered hinge walk, really working on the eccentric strength and length of the hips, the glutes, and the hamstrings. So we'll step our left foot forward. We're in a staggered stance. Our right heel is lifted. We're gonna have that imaginary broom behind us. Hinge really slowly, maybe for 2 or 3 counts. Like the hamstrings are slowing you down. And then really push into that foot. Get up a little bit quicker. That's that concentric strength. We step right foot forward, stagger stance. Knees are soft, left heel is lifted. We hinge nice and slow. Imaginary broom behind our back. And then push the ground away to get up a little quicker. So walk your way forward like that. Staggered stance. We're lengthening the glutes and the hamstrings. Good, when you get to the front of the mat, we're gonna start our sequence. So we'll reach the arms forward and up. Exhale, hinge slowly. Step your right foot back. You are welcome to land that right knee onto your block for a little extra cushion here. Now you can have both hands behind the head or one hand behind the head, one hand on the front ribs. We're gonna slowly hinge forward like that staggered stance. Inhale forward like the left hamstring and glute are slowing you down. Exhale, lift up a little quicker. Inhale, slowly hinge like a broom is behind you. Lift back up a little quicker. So the right glute is helping you out to get back up. Left glute is really working to hinge you forward nice and slow. Couple more. Try not to drop the belly or the ribs. As slow as you can move on the way forward. That's eccentric strength of the left glute and hamstring. Okay, we're heading to quadruped. That same move where the block comes under your sternum. Any height, left leg back. We just did this, so let's keep the front body lifted. Slow push-up. Tapping the sternum toward the block. Push up quicker. Lower slowly, eccentric strength. Push up quicker. Lower slowly and keep that right hip really solid. Don't let it wiggle around. Push up. One more time, slow lower. And then push up quicker. Head to plank. Pause here. We'll lower the knees. Now you can keep the block where it is. We're gonna lower as slowly as possible. All the way down. And we'll come to a cobra. Feel free to move the block aside. Drag the hands back, zipper the pubic bone up. Low cobra. Tuck the toes, down dog. Walk the feet in a little bit. And really pike the pelvis up, lift the front ribs, spread the fingers. Step your left foot forward, rise up and turn to the side of the mat. We will side lunge right, step out slow, and then step your feet together. Side lunge left, so we're gonna alternate. Step your feet together. Side lunge right, this is eccentric strength of the right glute. Step your feet together, side lunge left. So any pace, we're alternating the slow step out. Imagine trying to land as quietly and softly as you can on the heel. So the glute is lengthening as we step out. We've got that imaginary broom behind our back. One more side lunge to the right, and then we'll turn to the front of the mat. Plant that right hand down, seated twist transition, coming onto the outer right hip. Stack that left knee on top. Lower onto that right forearm. Let's make sure collarbone is broad. We're not rounding forward. You can also put a block here between the thighs. Let's work some eccentric strength of the hips. So we're going to lift into a side bridge. And then, of course, lower as slowly as we can, maybe for 2 or 3 counts. Lift up. Lower slowly. Working that outer right hip. Lift up quicker. Lower with control. So we're also getting into the obliques, some of those side core muscles. Working the right shoulder. So a lot of core work here as we work the hips. Lowering slowly, that eccentric strength. You could also have the hand here for more support. Couple more. Lift. Lower with control. So we're trying not to collapse or slam the hip back down. We're really working on moving with strength and control. Take the block aside. We're going to step our left foot forward and rise up again. Turn to the side of the mat. Externally rotate the hips. So toes are turned out a little bit. We will slowly sit into a squat and then come up quickly. Slowly bend the knees, lowering into a squat. Come up quickly. Any pace, you can lower down slowly. Like our legs are trying to slow us down so we don't collapse. One more. Slow descent into that squat. Lift back up. Good. Let's step to the front of the mat. Feet can be about hips distance apart. You also have the option to put a block between the ankles, knees, or thighs. Let's get some eccentric strength for the calves. Knees can be soft. We lift the heels, pushing the big toes. Lower as slowly as you can. Push into the big toes, lift. Lower as slowly as you can. Push down to lift. Lower with control. So as we lower slowly, we are eccentrically lengthening the calf muscles. One more. Push down to lift. lower with control. All right, let's take the block out if you've got it, and we'll do that sequence on the other side. Reach the arms up. Exhale, hinge slowly. Left foot steps back. Maybe we land the knee onto a block. 90-90, left glute firm, either both hands behind the head or one hand on the ribs. Imaginary broom behind you. We inhale, slowly hinge forward. Exhale, lift a little quicker. Inhale, slow hinge. Exhale, quick on the way up, using that left glute. So on the way down, we're lengthening the right glute, right hamstrings, and then they contract and shorten as we lift back up. Try not to dip the head down or round the back at all. We're moving purely from the hips. Pelvis is staying neutral, like we're zippering the pubic bone up to the belly. Heading into that quadruped. Block comes underneath the sacrum. Any setting, any height. Shoulders over your wrist. Right leg back. Float the toes without arching the back. So keep that engagement. We bend the elbows straight back without diving the shoulders forward. Quick on the way up. Slow push up, working the descent phase of a push up. The slow lower. Come back up. Couple more times. Slow lower. Push back up. Slow lower. Push back up. Head to plank pose. You can keep the block where it is or move it aside. Lower the knees. Lift the front of the throat. Exhale, lower down as slowly as you can. Low cobra. Lift the heart. Zipper that pubic bone up. Tuck the toes, down dog. Walk your feet in so the stance is short. Press into the fingers, the knuckles. Take some big breaths here. Right foot steps forward. We're going to turn to the side of the mat. You can start with the feet together. We'll slowly step out. Side lunge left. Step the feet together. Slow side lunge to the right. Step the feet together. So keep going, alternating. As slowly as you can, we softly and quietly land on the foot or the heel. And we're really trying to sit back into the glutes, sit back into the hips. One more side lunge to the left. And then from here, we'll turn to the front. Left hand plants, seated twist transition. Stack the right knee on top. Option to put a block between the knees or thighs. Lower onto that left forearm. Click that left scapula in toward the ribs. Make sure we're not thrusting your front ribs forward. Push down to lift. Lower even slower, maybe 2 or 3 counts. Push down to lift. Lower slowly. Push down to lift, holding that left scapula in place. Lower with control. Lots of work going on here between the shoulder, the core, the hips, the glutes. Nice and slow on the way down. Landing with control without slamming the hip down. Good, let's straighten that bottom arm. Cross the right leg back over. Turn back to the side of the mat. We externally rotate. Slow descent into that squat. And then straighten a little quicker. Slow as you come into your squat. Straighten. Slow squat. Like the hamstrings are trying to slow you down. Slow squat. Quick on the way up. Couple more. Maintain contact with the feet. Good, let's turn to the front of the mat. Option to use the block between the ankles, knees, or thighs as we work that eccentric strength for the calf. So we push down into the big toes, lift the heels, land slowly. Push down to lift, Land slowly. Push down to lift. Land slowly. So try to lower for at least 2 or 3 seconds on the way down. Hugging the block is going to help because we have that extra activation all the way up into the inner thighs and pelvic floor if we've got a block somewhere between the legs. All right, let's take the block aside. And we're going to do that one more time as a stream where we'll add a little bit more challenge. We'll start the same way. Reach the arms forward and up. Exhale, slow hinge. Eccentric strength of the legs. Right foot steps back. Let's land the knee onto the block again. Zipper that pubic bone up. Hands can be behind the head or one hand on the ribs. Slow hinge. Lift back up a little quicker. Right glute's going to help to get you back up. Slow hinge. We're lengthening the left glute and hamstrings. Lift up a little quicker. So we'll do a couple more times. Imagine that broom behind you. So the goal isn't to get down low by rounding or arching. We're trying to hold the spine and pelvis still and just move from that left hip, flexing or hinging, belly to the thigh. This time we're heading to modified side plank. Right hand can come flat on the ground or to your block. Right knee slides in, left foot steps back. Let's set up kind of like that side bridge. Right collarbone is broad. We're not rolling the shoulder forward toward the chest. Option to float the left leg up. And then our added challenge is going to be slowly flexing this left hip, maybe for 2 or 3 counts, extending it back a little quicker. Slow hip flexion. We're trying to pull belly to thigh or thigh to belly. Extend it out a little quicker. Whatever you're doing with this left hip, don't let that change the stability of the bottom hip or bottom shoulder. Couple more. Really stabilizing the core. Plank pose. You don't have to use the block under the sternum, but imagine it's under the sternum as we lower the knees. So chest stays nice and open. We lower down with the collarbones broad. Low cobra. Zipper the pubic bone up. You can try to float the hands this time more like a locust. Hands come back under the shoulders, tuck the toes, down dog. Walk the feet in, shortening your stance so we have that deep hip flexion. Pick up the front ribs so they don't droop. Big breaths here. Left foot steps forward. We turn to the right, facing the side of the mat. This time it's different, but you're welcome to stick with what we did last time. We side lunge right. Now tap your right foot toward the left. Pick up your right foot into hip flexion. Tap it down. Slow step out, right side lunge. Tap it together. Pick it up, hip flexion. Tap down. So you can keep this option. You can even skip taps, go right to that hip flexion. Or stick with our first option, which was stepping out, back together, stepping out, and back together. So find your challenge for that eccentric strength of the hips, glute, and hamstrings. Landing quietly and softly. Last side lunge to the right. Turn to the front. Plant the right hand down. Seated twist transition. Unwrap, so we bring left knee on top. Option again to put the block between the knees or thighs. Lower onto that right forearm. Now you could have hand here, or we have an option to bring it up. So we're going to lift, land slowly, lift up, land slowly. You could even go up and over. So we're trying to hold that right shoulder really still, really strong, and really feel the outer right hip. It lifts and contracts. We slowly lower and lengthen the outer hip muscles. So that's that eccentric strength of the outer hip. Working the glute medius is specifically one of the muscles we're working right now. One more. Slowly lower. Okay, let's come up, unwrap. So we take that left foot, cross it back over, turn to the side of the mat. Externally rotate. Slow lower into your squat. Lift up quickly. Slow descent to that squat. Lift up quickly. Option to lift the heels. Slowly descend into your squat. Lift up quickly. Slow lower. And lift quick. You could try heels up or heels down, your amount of challenge. Let's make sure we don't tip the pelvis by sticking the tailbone up behind us. Good, this is different. We're gonna finish turning to the front of the mat, bent knee airplane. So we're facing the front, load that left foot as we hinge forward, float the right leg up. Now let's work a little eccentric strength of the right leg. You could have right hand on the left thigh for a little buttress. You could have it on the ribs. We're gonna slowly lower or tap right foot down. Lift up quicker. Slowly tap it down. Lift up. So you're really gonna feel the left hip and glute working, even the hamstring. Slowly tap the right foot down, back up. Couple more, slow descent. Lift back up, slow descent. Lift back up, slow tap down. Lift back up, and we'll step the feet together, shake anything out that needs to move. And we will do that on the second and final side. Reach the arms up. Slow hinge as you exhale forward. Left foot back, maybe we land it on the block. 90-90, zipper up, imaginary broom behind your back. Both hands here or one hand on the ribs. Slow hinge forward. Quick on the way up. Eccentrically lengthening the right glute and hamstrings. Now as we come up, concentrically contracting. So longer on the way forward or down, shorter on the way up. Slow down. Quick on the way up. Couple more times. At your own pace. Bringing the torso toward that right thigh. Modified side plank, left hand under the shoulder or onto the block. Left knee slides in, right foot steps back. Check in with the left collarbone, left scapula clicking onto the ribs. Stay here or right foot can float. Other option is to slowly pull the right thigh forward, hip flexion. Extend it out quicker. Slow hip flexion, belly to thigh. Extend it out. So at your own pace, whatever you're doing, I don't want anything about the left hip or left shoulder to change. If we're adding on any extra challenge or movement, the goal is still stability in the base. Neutral pelvis, drawing those two pelvic points in. Zippering the pubic bone up. Good, plank pose. Option to use the block under the sternum or not. Imaginary broom behind your back. Let's lower the knees, re-lift the throat so ears in line with the shoulders. Exhale, keep the collarbones broad, super slow lower. Eccentric strength. Zipper the pubic bone up, drag the hands back. Low cobra. Option to float the hands. Stay long in the low back, hands under the shoulders, down dog. Shorten your stance. Big breaths here, breathing into the ribs. Right foot steps forward. Turn to the left. We've got all those side lunge options. Stick with step together, side lunge, or side lunge left. Tap together. Pick up that left foot, hip flexion, tap down. Slow lower into that side lunge. Or skip any taps. Go right from that eccentric side lunge right into your single leg balance. That's obviously going to be the hardest option. So be wherever it feels good for you without compensating in the pelvis or the spine. So moving purely from the hips. Land softly. We're really sitting back into that left glute. One more side lunge left. We're going to turn to the front, plant that left hand down, seated twist transition, unwrap. So we stack the right knee, lower onto the forearm. Option to have block between the legs. Push to lift. Land slowly and softly. Push down to lift. Land softly and slowly. Maybe we have that right arm up for an extra challenge. Maybe even up and over. Lifting quick, lowering slowly. So we're lengthening that outer left hip, that glute med, in eccentric contraction on the way down. Slowly lowering without slamming the hip down. Also working those side core muscles, definitely that left shoulder. Good, let's straighten that bottom arm, take the block out, cross the right leg over, we're turning back to the side of the mat. Turn the toes out, hips are externally rotated. Slow squat. Press the ground away to lift quickly. Slow squat. So hips are going straight up and down. Let's make sure we're not tipping the pelvis. So keep that pubic bone zippered up. Quick on the way up, slow on the way down. And if you want that added challenge, maybe try a heel lift for any of it, part of it, all of it. Slow descent into the squat. So hamstrings are lengthening, they're being stretched with load as we lower slowly. Quick on the way up, one more time. Slow descent into that squat. Come back up quickly. Last thing, turn to the front of the mat. We load that right hip, hinge forward, bent knee airplane. Left leg floats, hold that neutral pelvis. We don't want to sway the low back by tipping, so long in the low back. Slowly tap the left foot down, any amount. Quick on the way up. Slow lower. Quick on the way up. So really picture that broom behind you. Notice if the head is dropping down. Notice if the ribs are drooping down or the belly. We really got to work the whole core to keep the spine neutral. So we can focus on this left leg, left glute. Slow tap down toward the ground. It does not have to touch. Quick on the way up. Good, we're gonna land in quadruped. You can belly roll, you can cat-cow. Anything that feels nice for a couple breaths. Now find a semi-neutral spine. Left foot steps out to the left. We're going to slowly rock back into an adductor stretch, inner thigh stretch, and then forward. Slow rock back, and then come forward. So it doesn't matter how far we go, it's whatever feels good for this left inner thigh and the right hip and right knee. So we're not diving down here. Our hips are going straight back. Let's switch sides. Left knee comes back in under the hip. Right foot comes out to the right. Inner thigh stretch. Slow rock back. And forward. Slow rock back. Do your best to maintain contact with the whole right foot. So not just the inner arch or the big toe side. Try to push into the pinky toe side as well. Notice if the head is dropping down, the ribs are dropping down, or the belly. And imagine that broom behind your back. Slowly sitting back into the left hip for that right inner thigh stretch. All right, you can come out of it and we'll make our way onto our backs. Pick up your left foot, cross it over for figure four. Any option, you could have arms out, hands on the ribs, hands on the pelvis. If you want, we have the option to pick up this right foot. And then as we stretch this left hip, let's get a little bit more eccentric work. Slowly land this right foot down. Pick it back up. Slowly lower this right foot down, maintaining that core, so we're not lifting the belly or lifting the ribs. Just a little more active stretch here. Slowly lowering. Quick on the way back up. Good, we'll switch sides. Check your triple S. Right foot crosses over, figure four. Stay exactly with this or pick up the left foot. Option to slowly lower left foot without lifting the ribs. Pick it up quicker. Lower slowly. So we do have to maintain that core connection here if we're adding this extra eccentric movement. Keeping the sacrum down. Good, we'll release it down. Take a moment to find a restful position on your back. Let your eyes close. Feel that triple S, the back of the skull being supported, the shoulder blades and the sacrum touching the ground. Stay here for at least 5 to 10 deep breaths. Relaxing any tension in your forehead, your jaw, your neck. Just notice how the whole body feels. Whenever you're ready to finish up your practice today, take a moment to send one grateful thought out into the universe.